Hey, what's up, folks? One of the first things anyone who spent some time in Mournstead will probably appreciate is the fix around the reward system. There was this weird situation where players could actually receive a duplicate version of the Veteran of the Veil armor set after completing Veteran mode, especially if they already had one stashed away in their coffer. Now, on the surface, that may sound like a minor hiccup, but if you consider how much effort it takes to actually complete Veteran mode and earn that gear, getting duplicates by accident started to feel more like an unintended exploit than a rewarding experience. So the devs have taken care of that and ensured that you don't get the extra armor if one already exists in your inventory storage. That's the kind of fix that might seem small, but there's a lot of players out there who were a bit confused or annoyed by that happening. Now, besides that change to the veteran gear, the team put quite a bit of work into refining the Moth Trail guidance system, which, if you've ever used it on a long journey through the game's expansive areas, you'll know is super important. They specifically improved the accuracy and behavior of the guidance cues across multiple regions, including places with tricky terrain or confusing pathways like Skyrest Bridge, Pilgrim's Perch, Forsaken Fen, Fitzroy Gorge, Lower Calrath, Sunless Skene, the Cistern, Fief of the Chill Curse, and the Abbey of the Hallowed Sisters. This means the little moth icons and directional hints should now be more reliable in guiding you where you need to go, which is especially beneficial for players who were getting lost or felt like they were aimlessly wandering between objectives. It might not be flashy, but it's the kind of change that smooths out those moments where you just want to get back into combat or exploration rather than fighting the terrain itself. Honestly though, if you and a friend have been trying to tackle parts of the game together, you'll be super interested in this next part because this update handles a bunch of co-op stability issues that have been a source of frustration for some players. There were crashes occurring where animation synchronization between two players would go out of whack. This could happen even during seemingly simple things like picking up items. Getting booted back to the title screen right after finally finding that rare drop you were chasing? Yeah, nobody wants that, and that's exactly why this fix is important. The patch also addresses crashes that would happen during NPC vendor transactions when playing in co-op. So trading items, buying and selling, or just interacting with vendors alongside a partner should now be way more stable. And on top of that, save synchronization problems that could lead to instability in co-op sessions have been corrected. Basically, if you've had experiences where the game felt unstable or glitchy when playing multiplayer, those rough edges should be a lot smoother now. Now, you might have seen this latest patch and wondered how it ties into the broader evolution of Lords of the Fallen, because this game has had a pretty interesting development arc. The version 2.5 update was actually one of the biggest drops in the game's lifecycle, bringing in massive changes like a more aggressive combat flow, smarter enemies, and even the all-new Veteran mode, which was designed for players seeking an elevated challenge beyond the standard experience. In that update, bosses were rebalanced with tighter patterns, mini-bosses were made more threatening, the Adir encounter was reworked, and brand new armor and weapon tweaks were included. The patch we're talking about now is essentially a refinement on that, smoothing out some of the systems that were introduced and making them feel more consistent for the majority of players. It's interesting because when version 2.5 originally hit, a lot of veteran players were super hyped about facing those tougher challenges and adapting to the new boss patterns and enemy behaviors. But that kind of complexity also raised the bar for performance and consistency, especially in co-op, where if one person's game desyncs, well, you can imagine the frustration. So this patch 1.099 is almost like a reassurance that the devs are listening and continuing to polish the experience after the big changes. The improved guidance is another example of that. They recognize that with tougher encounters and more exploratory sections, players needed better feedback and direction without feeling like the map was their enemy. One of the things I really like about updates like these, especially in games that are notoriously challenging like Lords of the Fallen, is how they manage to balance fixing core technical issues while still preserving that sense of discovery and accomplishment. Yes, you want fewer crashes and better navigation, but you also want to keep that satisfying struggle when you finally beat a boss or figure out a route through a gnarly zone. This patch doesn't overhaul the experience, but it respects the player's time and effort by removing some of the unnecessary headaches. So whether you're a longtime Lampbearer who's been through every zone a dozen times, a co-op partner looking to share the pain and the loot with a friend, or someone just gearing up to tackle veteran mode for the first time, this update is meaningful in its own right.